With the release of Deltarune Chapter 2, I've begun to look back on the story and wonder what it told us. There's so much to learn from Chapter 2, about the characters, the world, the loose connection to Undertale, and what these things could mean for the future of this game's narrative. That is the topic of today's video, to share the information presented in Chapter 2, as well as share a few theories of mine. Obviously, spoiler warning, if you haven't played Chapter 2 to completion, secret boss and all, I highly suggest that you go back and do that first, then come back to this video. With that out of the way, let's begin. In various scenes throughout the game, a mysterious knight has been mentioned multiple times by a number of different characters, from Ralsei to Queen. We don't quite know who or what it is, just that it is a thing making these dark fountains. At least, we didn't know, until now. I'm of course talking about Chris, and their actions at the end of both chapters. In Chapter 1, Chris rips out their heart/soul, which is meant to be the player, throws it in a birdcage, and pulls out a knife. In the second, Chris stumbles into the bathroom, rips out their soul again, and leaves through the window to slash Toriel's tires. Later, Chris wakes up from the couch and yet again removes this from their body, and pulls out the knife. It has been established that a weapon is required to create a dark fountain, and Chris does just that, creating a fountain in the living room of Toriel's house. The cyber world and the computer lab was most likely made by Chris at the end of Chapter 1. I believe that Chris, the real Chris, not us, is the knight, and is creating these dark fountains to bring about the roaring. Queen also refers to the knight as Roaring Knight. For what purpose, I'm not sure, but this opens up many possibilities for future chapters. Until the end of Chapter 1, we had no idea what Ralsei was. Later it was revealed that he is a white, humanoid goat, similar to Asriel. In Queen's mansion, she had multiple rooms personalized for the main cast, as well as everyone in town. Yet Ralsei did not have one. But someone who we have not seen yet did, Asriel. Asriel himself has yet to make an official appearance, since he's away for college, and he only appears as a child and a god in Undertale. When checking Asriel's room, the text says that you open the door and close your eyes. I believe that is because we will learn nothing new, as we already know him. This could explain why Chris seems so comfortable about hugging Ralsei on the boat ride. I know this one's more of a theory, but I think it's fine to include it. Queen's name already shares a similarity with King, Chapter 1's antagonist, but what exactly is she? She is clearly not a chess piece. Her main goal is to help people achieve happiness, no matter the cost. She seems to care a lot about Noelle, and is constantly trying to make her happy throughout the game. To no avail. All of the inhabitants of this dark world were either electronic or digital, so Queen must be one of those things, as she too came from the computer lab. Noelle carries her laptop out of the computer lab at the end of the game. Computers are meant to serve your needs, so perhaps Queen is this laptop. I can't say for sure. During our time alone with her, Noelle makes multiple mentions of her older sister, Des. Like Asriel, she has yet to make an appearance, if ever. She doesn't talk about Des in the same way people talk about Asriel. She sounds almost as if she's reminiscing about her. Their father, Rudy, keeps an angel doll made by his daughters in his hospital room, calling it his good luck charm. If the doll is inspected, Susie teases Rudy for holding onto it, until she learns that Noelle and Des made it. She looks visibly troubled by this, suggesting that she knows what happened to her. All of this evidence suggests that Des met an unfortunate fate. Be it missing or dead, I am uncertain, but one thing is clear. Something happened to her, and it still haunts Noelle to this day. The Weird Route, also known as the Snowgrave Route, is an alternate story path in Chapter 2. Similar to the Genocide Route in Undertale, the Snowgrave Route takes us down a darker path. You progress normally through the game, up until the point the main party is separated, pairing you up with Noelle. Chris, or rather, the player, becomes more and more controlling of her, giving her a magic ring that empowers her abilities from Spamton, manipulating her to become stronger, and making her freeze the cyberworld's inhabitants. The absence of the inhabitants allowed Spamton to take over Queen's mansion unopposed. During her freezing rampage, Noelle changes. She becomes much more forceful, almost controlling. Concerned for her well-being, Birdly, of all people, steps in and attempts to stop Chris. With the Thorn Ring equipped, Noelle is commanded to cast a new spell, Snowgrave. After hesitating, Noelle casts the spell, freezing Birdly in an icy tomb. The route ends with an alternate final boss, Spamton Neo, who uses the missing people to his advantage and stole the Neo body on his own. Forcing the player on our last legs, we call for help. Yet no one comes to our aid, all except Noelle, who finishes the fight with Snowgrave. After the fight, everyone wakes up back in the computer lab, all except Birdly, who still is slumped over on the table. Noelle still believes this was all a dream, just like in the normal route, and leaves. Birdly remains in the computer lab for the rest of the game. Visited in the hospital, Rudy is playing the same game from the normal route, but Noelle seems different, insisting on using certain spells against an enemy that is resistant to them. After the scene, if we talk to her again while wearing her watch, we confirm to her that the events of the cyberworld did in fact transpire. This leaves us with the question, will the Snowgrave Route impact the events of Chapter 3? Both Noelle and Birdly undergo extreme changes, Noelle becoming more controlling, and Birdly becoming dead. These two changes could have a major impact on the rest of the overall story, which makes me wonder, will each subsequent chapter have an alternate route? Could there be multiple endings for the entire game as a whole, each depending on which route you took in the chapter? Only time will tell. Dr. W.D. Gaster was the former royal scientist and Alpha's predecessor. His fate is unknown, only a few lines of dialogue hinting as to what happened to him. His followers say he fell into his creation and was scattered across space and time. It has been established that Deltarune takes place in an alternate reality to Undertale. Perhaps Gaster, when he fell into his creation, the core, a part of him was transported to the world of Deltarune. When asked about Jevil, Sham says that Jevil's words make his thoughts yet darker, a quote from Lab Entry 17 in Undertale. Entry number 17. Dark. Darker. Yet darker. The darkness keeps growing. The shadows cutting deeper. Photon readings negative. This next experiment seems very, very interesting. What do you two think? Sham also says that he examined Spamton's phone, but all he heard was garbage noise. This noise is most likely the same noise from the player's phone, and shares the same file name as the sound from Undertale. mus_smile. He seems to have had an encounter with both Jevil and Spamton. Both encountered an unknown person and gained considerable power at the cost of their sanity. This, I believe, is Gaster. The Deltarune, the symbol, not the game, has been seen throughout Undertale and Deltarune. It depicts an angelic figure and 3 triangles, 2 pointing upwards and 1 downwards. This symbol is related to a prophecy, the legend of Deltarune. In the prophecy, it is said that if the roaring is to come about, the angel's heaven will come forth. What this means I'm not sure, but this angel is most likely the winged figure above the triangles. Speaking of, I've seen some people theorize that the triangles represent the 3 heroes, Mentioned prior, 2 facing up for Chris and Susie, Lightners, and Ralsei facing downwards, the Darkner. Just before his fight, Spanton asks, "Heaven, are you watching?" Perhaps with his newfound power, Spanton aims to help bring about the roaring. As I mentioned before, this power was partially from Gaster. On Deltarune.com, an image was found that appeared blank. When the contrast was increased, it showed a sentence written in Wingdings, the same language Gaster uses. When translated, the Wingdings say, "3 heroes appeared to banish the angels' heaven." I doubt Gaster had good intentions when he granted Jevil its phantom power, so I'd say it's safe to assume that Gaster might have a part to play in bringing about the roaring. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I've wanted to make one for some time now, and I finally did it. It means a lot to me that you would sit through my ramblings about an indie game. And who knows, I might do it again. That's all. It's Ayyyyyy out.